Hi, welcome to ChaosChats, where we talk about all things sci-fi, fantasy, and comics. We're your hosts. I'm Michael Portis.
And I'm Steven Portis. Today we'll be showing you we're a little bit more than just a movie review channel. We're here to help you get to know us better by telling you each of our top 5 favorite superheroes. And yeah,
We're excited to get started. We're excited to talk about our favorite heroes. It was hard to work on this list. It's funny to think about how many heroes you like, but when you have to choose your favorites, it comes down to a lot of specifics. And it was a tough scramble, but you know what? I think we've got our top 5s down, and we're ready to talk about them.
absolutely. And we can just jump right into it here with each of our top 5s.
Starting at number 5. For my number 5 pick, I'm going with Nightcrawler, Kurt Wagner, the mutant X-Man of teleportation. He had to start both in the circus, being kind of considered a circus freak. He was also a gypsy for some points in his life, but no matter where he started, he always ended up chased by these townspeople who just hated him because he was a mutant. And he had a fated encounter with Professor X, who stopped the mob from hurting him and took him in as one of the X-Men to become one of the more popular rostered members. Kurt is able to teleport. He can stick to walls. He is blue and furry. He's got kind of a devilish appearance with a pointed tail, but he's just an all-around nice guy in the end. Now, I chose him as my number 5 because not only is he kind of a funny character, which if you look at my list, you'll probably notice I kind of like the characters that have that little humorous side to them. He has a little bit of humor to him, and he's also a strong Christian representation in comics or movies or what have you. The show, he is usually the representation of a Christian in the comics, and as a man of faith myself, I find him very inspiring. And he has that little humor, and honestly, X-Men's one of my favorite teams as far as comics goes. So to choose him, it took a little bit of choosing between a few characters, but settling on him wasn't terribly difficult. So yeah, Nightcrawler's my number 5.
And now we'll get to my number 5, which is the Green Lantern, Hal Jordan. And when another Green Lantern named Abin Sur landed on Earth, and was fatally wounded, his ring went to Hal Jordan, who was chosen for his strong will, and he became one of the members of the Green Lantern Corps, which are the intergalactic space cops, basically. And he was trained by the fellow Green Lantern, Sinestro, who eventually betrays the Corps and creates the yellow Sinestro Corps. And basically, the power of the Green Lanterns is based entirely on willpower. And the stronger your willpower, the stronger your constructs are. And your constructs can be anything of the imagination. You can create a car, a rocket, you name it. If you can think it, you can create it. Just like you can basically do with most of the spectrum, if you use the right emotion. And what I think what I really like about Green Lantern is the extensive lore he's in. I think the overall world with the different colored lanterns and just the whole story. I mean, basically, it could be its own world in itself. I mean, just as self-sustaining as Gotham is in most movies. But like, I love the Red Lanterns and the Blue Lanterns, and so I think all that combined makes Hal Jordan my number 5, and we'll move on to our number 4s.
My number 4 pick is The Flash. Barry Allen specifically. Barry Allen was in a kind of accident, if you will, chosen by the Speed Force in a way, as he is a crime scene investigator. He was struck by a bolt of lightning and fell into some chemicals, and the Speed Force imbued him with super speed. He is the fastest man alive. He can run so very fast, like so fast. He's known for his super speed, obviously. He can travel through time. He can hit really fast. He can hit really hard with his super speed. And he's also a fairly intelligent man, considering he is a crime scene investigator. He has that criminal analytic mind where he has that profession in him. My reasoning for choosing Barry is I've liked the Flash a lot. I like super speed as a power in general, and he's a very humble man despite his ability. He's always talking to himself about how he needs to be faster. He's never fast enough, despite the fact that he's considered the fastest man alive. He always feels like he doesn't save enough people. He doesn't do enough, and it drives him. I mean, he lost his mom when he was little, and there was a storyline that changed the DC universe forever called Flashpoint, where he goes back in time and saves his mom, but it just ruins the timeline and changes everything. So he has to go back and stop himself from saving his mom. He has a lot of interesting storylines with time travel, and just his heart. His heart is always in a good place, and he too sometimes has those little quippy moments, but that's more for Wally as far as the Flash goes. But Barry is just a really cool character, and I've read some of his more recent comics, and he's just got a lovable heart about him. And just a disclaimer, I don't believe the CW show does him any justice. All right.
All right, now for my number 4, and which would be Captain America, Steve Rogers. Steve Rogers came around in World War II when he was the 90-pound weakling, taken into the Super Soldiers program. He was reintroduced to the Avengers by Stan Lee, where he was frozen in ice since World War II, and he lived up to his reputation. He's got his shield, which is vibranium mixed with proto-adamantium, and so it's nearly unbreakable. And he's one of the best hand-to-hand fighters in the Marvel Universe, and not to mention he's got the super soldier serum, which makes him stronger and faster than a normal person. I think what I really like about Cap, though, is that he's really he's just a good guy. A lot of the times we're faced with heroes that are just like troubled heroes and edgy, but he's just good for the most part. I mean, some comics have tried to make him darker and edgy, but really, at the core, he's just good. And not only that, but he's an inspiring leader, and the other heroes have no problem just rallying behind him. And to where even some characters like the Punisher just look up to him like an idol. And, you know, he means a lot to the heroes. And I think the old symbol, Captain America, that all makes me my number 4.
It's very, very inspirational, man.
Very. And now, we will move on to our number 3s.
Number 3s. My number 3 pick would be Iron Man, the invincible Avenger himself. Tony Stark was a weapons developer and a ladies' man, or if you want to quote the movie, billionaire, playboy, philanthropist, genius. He got his living off of war profiteering, making money off of selling all these weapons for the war efforts. In the process of testing some of his equipment, he was attacked by his own mind, and he had a bunch of shrapnel that would start to go into his heart. He was captured by a man who was working for the Mandarin, and he was forced to try and make this doomsday weapon for them as they were as they had captured him, thinking that they had everything they needed, and including another scientist named Yinsen, and he ended up creating the arc reactor, which stopped the bullets from reaching his heart, and he developed the iron suit that you know and love today, or at least the Mark One, with Jensen's help, and they bust out of the prison. They start fighting their way out, but Jensen does make that sacrifice play, and Iron Man lives to stop being a weapons developer and moves on to doing greater things. He's known a lot in the comics for fighting communist threats, but that's classic Iron Man stuff. Anyway, his abilities, he's a genius. One of not the smartest Marvel character, but he's one of the top smartest Marvel characters. Being in a group called the Illuminati, with some of the greatest minds the planet's ever known. He has, because of his genius, he has made a suit around the arc reactor that once was saving his heart. He has since had it removed, and it's just powering the suit instead. And recently in comics, I mean, it's developed over years. Pretty much, it's a suit that has all sorts of equipment. Repulsor rays, most famously, he can fly, and I mean, he's got super strength. He's got missiles. He's got loads of stuff. And recently in the comics, he's been using nanotechnology or extremis technology, as stated in the comics, where he can create anything with his suit that he can think of. So, or at least any weapon that he can think of, and he can just enhance the suit. And he has all sorts of different suits and styles to fight all sorts of different battles between Hulkbuster, Thorbuster. He made an armor suit, believe. He made a Galactus Buster suit. He's made all sorts of different suits, and each one capable of doing crazier and crazier things. And he's just got this genius level intellect that allows him to make whatever he needs for any situation. And I think the reason I fell in love with Iron Man, originally, was, look at it. He just has that look. He's got that awesome presence. When I was a kid, I didn't know as much about him, but I did fall in love with his character. And the Iron Man movies came out, and I was psyched to see him in action. And I think the Iron Man movies really just expanded upon his character and brought him more to life to me. Because I loved him beforehand, and he just has, it's just a cool suit. He can fly. He's got those repulsor rays. It's just cool armor, cool design, cool, just, I guess, presence. And that's always captured me. And he's also got kind of that sense of humor that's sparked. But I don't know. Iron Man's just always been up there for me.
All right. And my number 3 is Batman. Bruce Wayne. Well, most of us know his origin story already. When he was 8 years old, his parents were shot down a back alley. And since then, he's dedicated himself to stopping crime in Gotham, which is really the worst city for crime in the country. So he's had his job cut out for him from the beginning. And since then, he's went on to do his job pretty well, and he's had lots of sidekicks and crazy adventures, and even joined the Justice League to compete with the best of the best. And but as far as powers go, he doesn't have any. He's the DC Universe's one of their greatest martial artists, along with lots of utilities and gadgets and even different suits if the job depends on it. Of course, he's the world's greatest detective, so you'll catch him at his best when he's trying to stop the next crime from taking place from the next sociopath on his list. But I think what I like about him most is how he is just the human on the Justice League, the human among the most powerful beings on the planet, and still somehow he can keep up with them. But at the same time, I've said it before, it's like, I like Batman, but I don't like Batman fanboys. It's they're always going around, with prep time, Batman can beat anybody, and I don't really need that out of Batman. He's a lot better off when he is that human character. Whenever he's being the detective, when he's being the stealthy one, when he's solving the case, and when he's, winning a battle just out of pure skill, other than, oh, Batman, he had prep time, so he's invincible now. But, I like the core of Batman the most. And I think that's really showed off in, like, the animated shows. Probably the best. And, yeah, I think that all that makes Batman my number 3. And we'll move on to our number 2s.
Number 2. My number 2 pick is Nightwing, a less heard of hero. It's honestly one of those Halloween costumes where people are like, "Who are you?" Nightwing. Oh, who are you? Nightwing is, or was, Robin. He was Dick Grayson, the acrobat of the Flying Graysons with his parents. His parents had an unfortunate accident, where they died in a trapeze accident, and he was adopted by Bruce Wayne. And with that adoption and his acrobatic skills, he became the first Robin, and he ran as Robin for a little bit. And now there's a couple of different origins for where he comes from. But either way, he does have a disagreement with Batman in some shape or form, and this leads him to go out on his own to form his own persona, whether it's with the Teen Titans or whether it's Batman and him had a huge fight. He inevitably moves out on his own to do his own thing and becomes Nightwing. Now, Nightwing is in some ways like Batman. He has no powers. He, though he is considered one of the stronger humans in the DC universe, he has 2 eskrima sticks that he's famous for. He has wingdings, which is kind of like batarangs, and a grappling hook. But he usually mainly relies on his acrobatic skill and his eskrima sticks to get the jobs done. he is also very famous for his humor. He's a very funny character. He's like if Batman decided to be funny. He's got this great sense of humor. He's got his acrobatics. He was trained by Batman. He's also that being said, he's not only a great hand-to-hand combat fighter, but he is also a great detective as well. And he's moved on to the city of Bloodhaven, which is an arguably either worse or equal to cesspool as Gotham is. It is bad from what I've read in comics, especially recently. It's just nothing but just grime. But he's there and he's ready to save the city on his own terms in his own way, and he's just a great character. My reasons for loving him is his sense of humor. He's just always had that funny, kind of confident way about him. I like his look a lot, honestly. I do enjoy characters that don't have powers, that are just really capable people, and he's one of those people. And I like the escrimistics. It mixes things up a little bit, and he's got his own relatable features in his own life, despite the fact that he's raised by a billionaire. And but like when he moved out on his own, he's got his own little relatable things about him, and he's got interesting stories, especially some of his more recent solo stuff. I mean, his family history is definitely a lot more complicated than what we had previously thought. I mean, he's just a very interesting character, a very unheard of character, unfortunately, very less explored. And I think that's part of the reason why I like him a lot, is because while he doesn't get a lot of exposure, and in some ways that's kind of sad, in other ways it's like, well, that preserves his character in a way for me. So I just like his character a lot. He's a very smooth talking, relatable kid who's just trying to be his own version of a Batman type hero in his own city. And I don't know. He's Nightwing. He's just a great and fun hero to talk about and to read about. I suggest you check him out if you haven't heard of him.
All right. Well, my number 2 pick is Venom. And some of you that might not know, you're like, wait a minute, Venom's a villain. But no, he's actually been a hero for some time now. At least a few years strong, going on as a hero. Of course, we know the symbiote came from when Spider-Man found him on Battle World in the Secret Wars, and then brought him back to Earth with him. And then everything was good for Peter. He had this new suit that could hold his camera for him and change into regular clothes. He started getting tired, like sleep wasn't enough, and it was because the symbiote was taking him out at night and fighting crime anyway. So he goes to Reed Richards and finds out the thing's alive, and he's like, hey, get this off me. So Reed takes it off, and they put it in a jar, and the symbiote then escapes, and he's a little upset that Spider-Man rejected him, so he tries to attach to Peter a little more aggressively this time. And that's when we get the famous bell tower scene with Spider-Man tries to get the symbiote off of him. Thinks he's killed it, but instead it finds its way to Eddie Brock, who was already mad at Spider-Man for ruining his story, where he thought he was talking to a serial killer, and then the real one was caught by Spider-Man. And then, so he had his time as a villain, but Eddie Brock was never a bad guy. Even when fighting Spider-Man, he wouldn't hurt civilians, or he'd even stop in the middle of a fight to save a civilian, even if he was trying to kill Spider-Man. And he'd even stop to team up with Spider-Man and the other heroes to stop Carnage. And but the symbiote itself still had that darkness to it. So when the two became separated, Eddie Brock was off trying to reform himself, while Venom was attached to the Scorpion, Donald McGargan, becoming basically a villain on par with Carnage almost, eating people, until he was captured and the symbiote was given to Flash Thompson, who was a soldier and ex-bully to Spider-Man and his biggest fan. And that's really when Venom became a hero, was when Agent Venom took the reins and they went into space and the symbiote got cured of its darkness. So the symbiote was all good and Flash was all good. And this whole time Eddie Brock, he was done being the bad guy too, and he became friends with Peter Parker. So finally the two came back together, Venom and Eddie Brock, and the two have been heroes ever since together. Even fighting the symbiote god Null in King in Black, they became, just as good at heroes as any other. Even invited to join the Avengers. So he's not a villain anymore. But as far as powers go, he's had so many, and still does. He can shapeshift either to, from change your outfit, you never have to change clothes. He can even change your appearance to where you look like a different person. He can camouflage. His time with Spider-Man gave him basically spider-like abilities. He can stick to walls. He can create webs. And he's had so many. I mean, recently he sprouted wings and stuff like that. So, the list goes on too long. He can create tendrils. But, I think what I like the most about Venom is how relatable I guess he's become recently. He's really a guy down on his luck, basically almost on par to how down on his luck Spider-Man gets sometimes. He's a loner and feels like it's just him against the world, and that the only one that's there for him is the symbiote. And it's just earlier comics tried to make him out to be like a sociopath, but luckily that's changed, and now he's just a good guy. And he's had a lot of relatable moments during the recent history, like just trying to take care of his son. He tries to do the right thing, but sometimes he can't always, and sometimes he'll make the wrong choice just to save his son. I mean, he's a hero, but he's very human, despite the alien. And I think that's really what places him on my number 2 spot. Which will take us to our number 1s.
Number 1s. Drumroll. My number 1 pick, to no one's surprise most likely, is Spider-Man. What? Right. There's no. Spider-Man. The amazing, the spectacular, the ultimate, whatever you want to call him. Spider-Man. I'm pretty sure everybody knows his origin story just about as well as everyone knows Batman's. He was bitten by a radioactive spider during a school trip experiment. He then gained the abilities of a spider and went on to to try and do some wrestling. He tried to make kind of make a little money on the side, and lost his uncle Ben one night to a mugger, and he chased down that mugger, and he nearly killed him, but he held back because he remembered what his Uncle Ben had said, which is, with great power comes great responsibility. And that's what made Spider-Man. With that phrase in mind, he's always kept it to heart. He became the hero that New York needed. He's got all this power. He can do everything that a spider can. He can stick to walls. He has the proportionate strength of a spider. Just super strong. Sometimes he shows off that he's really strong, and nobody really knows it. He's got a spider sense, which allows him to detect danger whenever he's being attacked and he's fighting someone. He has web shooters that he created of his own intellect, making the webby, sticky substance that we all know and love, that he shoots and swings from, and webs up bad guys. He's actually a very, very genius level kind of character, kind of underrated. Now, granted, he's not on par with anybody like Tony Stark or Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic, or Doctor Doom for that matter, but he is a very smart character, and a lot of times that's underplayed or not seen. But he's a very smart character, and that's a lot of times how he worms his way out of situations, is just by his own genius and cunning. Because sometimes his spider powers aren't even cutting. And honestly, there's a one time in comics where he created his own fighting style too, called Spider Fu. So he's not limited to only relying on his spider sense now. He kind of has a basis of how to fight, and he's been doing it for so long now that he has a great idea of what he's doing. Always keeping that line from Ben in his mind and his heart. Spider-Man is my favorite character, I should say, because he's such a good guy, and there are so many reasons why. He's such a good guy. He has such a good heart to do the right thing that he'll sacrifice what's happening to his Peter Parker side, his human side of things, to go do the right thing and save people and help people. There are so many times when he makes these plans, he has the best of intentions to follow through, but he sees something happening, he knows he has to do something, he knows he has to save someone, and he makes the sacrifice to his personal life. And a lot of people blame him and just shove it right back in his face. They criticize him, and he just tries to take it with a stride. He's got what you call Parker luck. He's always kind of down on his luck, but he's always doing it for the right cause, for the right reason. As I've said before, I'm into funny characters. He's always got the funny things to say. His quips are classic and hilarious. He is just a very relatable, emotional guy, and he doesn't drink. He always turns down drinks, and I can relate to that as I don't drink either. That just makes for it's a little side thing, but it's special to me anyway. He's just an incredible character who has all these abilities and powers, and who's had all these things happen to him, even characters pushing him to leave behind his personal life entirely. People who want him to leave behind the spider life entirely, and there's a couple times where he's tried to, but in the end, it's always come back to with great power comes great responsibility. And he always tries to do the right thing and help people, and he wants to help people with the abilities he has. So Spider-Man has had my heart for a long time, probably since I started getting into heroes, with the start of the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies. He's been my favorite character, probably my favorite hero for as long as I've had favorite heroes. He's always stuck with me. There's always something about Peter Parker, with no matter where he was, who he was with, or what adventure he's going on. Peter's just always been that character that I fell in love with, and who I deeply respect.
All right. And now for my number one, which is the Wolverine. James Howlett, Logan. He's gone by many names. He was born in the 1800s and was a very sickly boy to start out with, until one fateful night when one of the land helpers, which turned out to be his real dad, which you don't really know it at the time, it's just kind of hinted at because he looks just like Wolverine when he's older, is basically holding a gun to his who he thinks is his real father, and trying to get his mom. And young James lashes out and snicks his claws out for the first time and kills the guy, and then he runs, and eventually he was taken in by the Weapon X program, in which he was experimented on and given an adamantium skeleton, and they tried to make him a weapon that they could use. But one day he woke up from it all and he couldn't remember anything because they wiped his memory, and he went on a rampage and basically killed anyone he can get his claws on. And he's been through a lot since then. That led up to his first appearance of fighting the Hulk. And he eventually joins the X-Men, which he's most famous for, and has basically been in and out of for ever now. And switching from being a loner off on his own to being a team member in the X-Men. And you know, he's just he's had a lot happen to him over the years. There's always some kind of tragedy happening to Wolverine. He can't go anywhere without anything bad happening to him. And he's had many different personas. Yeah, he's gone by Logan and Wolverine, and of course he's been Patch, which he just wears an eye patch. And as far as his powers go, you know, he's got the healing factor. He's got natural bone claws, and his entire skeleton is covered in an unbreakable adamantium. And he's got animal-like senses, and his healing factor does things like helps him be resistant to cold, diseases. Just the only thing is his healing factor is a little bit weaker because he's always trying to fight off adamantium poisoning. And one time when Magneto rips out his adamantium skeleton, his healing factor gets stronger, and you learn that without his adamantium skeleton, he would mutate endlessly, and his healing factor would constantly get stronger. But eventually he gets his adamantium skeleton back. The reason he's my number one is because when I tried to think about the things I really like about him, it's kind of like it'd be a shorter list if I thought about what I didn't like about him. He's such a versatile character, because I mean, you can have him in a comic book that's nice and lighthearted, and then you can have him in a comic that's dark and gritty, and he can be a loner, a team player. He's got several different cultures. I mean, he's Canadian, and he's also studied heavily into samurai culture and Japanese culture, and likes to spend time in Japan. I mean, I guess he can be anything. But one thing remains true, that he's always Wolverine at heart. No matter what situation you put him in, he's always still the same guy, in which he's a rough exterior, don't mess with him, he's tough, but deep down he has a soft heart and he really cares. And that shows a lot because, when other heroes and bad guys try to stand up to him, he's always in their face. But then, you take like a younger hero, or that like a teenage hero that's in trouble, and he's always there being compassionate for them and taking them under his wing, and like he's done with Kitty Pryde and Rogue and his clone X-23, Armor. The list goes on almost. So he's been a father figure to many characters. But unfortunately, the times he wasn't that great of a father was to basically his own kids. And that's mostly circumstantial because, like, his son, Dakin, was stolen as an infant. So he can't really be blamed for that. But, yeah, I mean, he's been X-Men, Avenger, you name it. Wolverine's there. I believe one time he said multitasking was his superpower. So, I guess everything I just listed combined ends up making Wolverine my number one favorite hero of all time. I mean, I think he's kind of been my favorite for as long as I can remember. I mean, ever since I got into superheroes, it's just kind of always been Wolverine. I mean, to the point I can't even remember that point where I looked and said, hey, I like Wolverine. It's just kind of always been Wolverine. And the more I read his comics and stuff like that, the more he stays on top. So, I guess that's our favorite heroes.
Yeah, that's our top 5 favorite heroes from me and him both. You can leave a comment and tell us who your favorite heroes is, top 5, top 10, just any number of heroes. Who are your favorite heroes? Give this video a like and subscribe if you'd like to see more just nerd content, more movie content. We're going to be doing some more movie reviews, so stay tuned for those. We are excited to just bring you some more content about our favorite things and tell you more about ourselves in the process. And our favorite heroes was a good way to start. Let us know if there's anything that we left out with our heroes. Let us know if you have anything else extra to say about why you like our hero choices. And give us whatever advice or anything you'd like to give in the comments. Just let us know.
Or if you'd like to see a top 5 list from us sometime that we can do, we take suggestions.
Suggested top 5 lists. In between movie reviews, we can do some of those.
Yes, we'll still be pumping out movie reviews and more lists.
Thanks for watching, and we'll chat with you later.